right, I'm coming at you today, guys, in my kitchen because I really wanted to talk to today's guest, Todd Smith. And when I asked him what, title or anything he wanted to go by, he's like, I actually don't. He's like, I go by Todd. And I absolutely love that. I don't like sometimes putting myself in a certain box, or other people putting me into a certain box too. And I think we're going to dive into all things highly sensitive people today, which I'm super excited about. So welcome. I've, definitely thought over the years that sensitivity, or I've kind of shifted my belief around it as far as like sensitivity is my superpower. Although there have definitely been moments in my life where it's felt challenging or overwhelming. How did you first discover that you were a highly sensitive person, or like what that is, or or how would you even describe what a highly sensitive person is? Any of those directions.
Yeah, great questions. And it's great to be here. So thank you, Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I only discovered it a few years ago that I was a highly sensitive person. I mean, I've obviously been this way my whole life, but a friend of mine said, you might be highly sensitive and you might check. There's a test you can take. So I was like, okay, take it. I took it. And oh, yes, that's definitely who I am. So, what is a highly sensitive person? It's a particular trait that is, you actually find it in over 100 different species. About 15 to 20% of a given population has this trait. And it's defined by four main characteristics. The lady who did the research, she says it's DOES, does, like if you're going to use a word to make it easy. The D stands for depth of processing. So that's the first characteristic you'll notice is you process things more deeply. You take more time to process things. I've been accused of being slow, but I'm not stupid also. We get to the bottom of things, but we take our time. And we also take all the different things that come into our mind and we sit with them and look at the connections and try to work it out. And we spend time in that kind of processing. The next one, the D-O, O is for overwhelm. Because of the depth of processing, because of the amount of stuff that we're dealing with and taking care of internally, we can get overwhelmed more quickly. And so our window of being like balanced is much smaller than other people's. And so people often accuse us of being too sensitive because we end up reaching our max point earlier than other people. It's like running a bigger program on your computer. It's going to max out your computer quicker.
That
We
sounds
run,
getting on.
yeah. So we run a big program, and it's a good thing, has its major advantages, but that's one of the disadvantages. The DOE, E stands for emotional or empathetic, and this is also a big part of this trait. We are very aware of the emotions and feelings of other people. We pick up on subtle changes in tone of voice and facial expressions and body language and just what it means when somebody does this, or that. And we pay attention and we care about that stuff. So we're really good at being there for people and being just a support for people. We're great listeners. Any of the caring professions are naturally a fit for this type of person. But we can cross over and get into other people's business also, where we can end up kind of, not respecting the boundaries a little bit, or just like getting overwhelmed by too much attention on others. So, our challenge is to come back to ourselves.
I
So
call
the
that
last one,
curiosity.
D-O,
No.
say that again. What was
I
it?
said I call that curiosity.
Curiosity,
No.
yeah. And the difference is like there's nothing wrong with curiosity, and we can't turn it off. Like we see what's going on around us. The difference is like it's like noticing where people do have boundaries, or noticing what's their responsibility and what's my responsibility. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as you keep that sorted, then this is an amazing gift to all around, and it's wonderful. But if we don't keep that sorted, then we start taking on someone else's responsibility. Then, of course, it becomes stressful.
Hmm.
So the last piece of it is the S in DOES is sensitivity, sensory sensitivity. And that means we are affected by bright lights, loud noises, any kinds of smells, things like that. We just take in a lot more data, which also contributes to overwhelm. And it's so, yeah, this is, I like to say, if you ask someone who's not highly sensitive to count to 1 to 10, they'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But if you ask someone who's highly sensitive, it'll be like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. There's a lot of details that we pick up on.
Yeah, no, I kind of got a little teary-eyed because a lot of this is like, I feel so seen.
You're not
And
alone.
it tracks. I'm like, that's why I didn't want to go to ACL this weekend.
Yes.
So
Yes.
to, sensory overload or shared experience on overwhelm or being, like to going in. I'm curious, do you know if like this is something like formed in the womb? Is it like as we're developing as a kiddo? Like, is it our neuro, typical or non-typical, or like what is that kind of? I'm wondering if there's a correlation there, or if you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, I'm not super expert in that, but my understanding is that we're born with it.
Mm,
Like it's an evolutionary trait that is, I would assume, is like based in our DNA or something like that. But like when I look back to when I was young, I was this way back then, and nothing's changed. It's just now I have a name for it or I understand it a little better. But I think it's just the way we're wired, really. One of the ways to talk about it is we're wired for depth, not so much for speed.
mm, I definitely value depth for sure. Um, and sometimes, yeah, I don't really like conversations about the weather or like that sort of thing. Yeah, it's just really interesting. So, when did you discover, or like, or was it like a coming home sense, I guess? Like once you discovered this like term or group of people or community or like just way, it's like, oh, like, shoot, I can move a little easier in the world, or maybe if I'm given these certain tools, I can.
Yeah, it's very affirming just to see like you said, feeling seen. Like, oh my gosh, there's nothing wrong with me because we're a kind of an unseen minority, like an invisible minority, you could say. It's very easy to internalize the judgments of everybody. Like, oh, you're too sensitive. You need to toughen up. You're just you're overthinking this. Well, overthinking, what other people will call overthinking, is normal for us. Like this is just the way we think. So like it's very easy to start judging yourself, and we all internalize that. So finding that, it's it does feel like coming home, and it's something that can be really nice to just experience. I say there's 3 pillars of stress, for stress management with highly sensitive people, and one of those pillars is just understanding the trait, because then it becomes normal for you. Then it becomes, you have compassion for yourself, and you stop judging yourself as much.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely want to dive more into those pillars or like just stress management. Because a girlfriend of mine was just staying the night just a couple of days ago, and she was saying, I can go to sleep usually easily unless I overthink or something. I'm like, yeah. So sure, she's like, or if I don't start doing that, it's like, yeah, same. Sometimes I find myself taking a Benadryl so that I'll get a little more drowsy. Um, because I'm like, okay, just thinking about things or connecting the dots. So I'd love to expand on your pillars. You mentioned the first one, just understanding like the term. Let's go, let's peel it back.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next pillar is, well, I can just give them both together. There's one is outer work and one is inner work, and they're both important for different reasons and in different ways. Outer work is like setting up a routine that works for you, getting enough sleep on your schedule, like not just waiting for that to happen by chance or going by what other people like in your family are used to or what works for them. That may not work for you. Like HSPs. They're called HSP, highly sensitive person, is one of the ways we talk about it. They typically need 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. It's like, yeah, right.
Yeah. Can I
That's
get an
me.
amen? I'm like, no, for sure. Like if I feel like I can't function if I don't get mine. Like I mean, I just made a protein shake and did some extra creatine because I heard I was like, oh, okay, if you get less sleep, creatine may be able to help like with that brain functionality. So okay, interesting. 8 to 10 hours of sleep,
Yeah,
beautiful.
I mean, you can get away with it here and there, but like ultimately, to be at your best, you have to take care of the system. The analogy I like to use is if you think of a Stradivarius violin, which is like the best violin in the world, like it can produce an incredible music, but you have to baby it. You don't, when they sell one of them, they hand deliver it on the airplane. The violin gets a seat for itself, like it's not, they're not shipping that because any kind of damage to it could make a huge effect on the way that instrument performs. So we, as highly sensitive people, all human beings, but especially as highly sensitive people, we're a sensitive instrument, and so we have to baby it a little bit. We have to take care of ourselves so that we can perform what we're given to perform, what we're capable of doing. So yeah, sleep, routine, taking care of getting good food, balance. We tend to like to do things well, and sometimes we can get driven or caught in a loop of like trying to get to the finish line, and and so we can be our own worst enemies in that regard. And so we have to just really learn how to pace ourselves. Like time management is super important for us. I just recently realized this cool new way of ending my day, my work day, is I used to like shut down my computer and like close out and make sure this project's done and everything's ready for tomorrow. Like I've actually just come to the point of just hitting the pause button. And then the next day pick it up, and it's like actually been way better for me because it can be infinite how many things you need to finish before closing down in the day. So
Did that
this
take
kind of
you?
thing.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
mean to interrupt you, but I'm curious. Like, did that take a level of experimentation, or like to figure out, okay, like what's gonna be fit for me, or like more nurturing and that sort of thing?
absolutely. It's constant experimentation in a way. Like you try this and then you like see how that goes and then you try that. And each of us is individual. There's no perfect way for everybody. I
Yeah.
love I love that. There are certain guidelines that you can kind of work within, and so we can learn from each other as well. But yes, experimentation is key.
Because as you were thinking, I even thought I was like, even as a woman, like in different times in my cycle, like my need or longing for rest is going to feel different than in certain other ones, or how I would nurture or baby myself, or like even like workouts that I want to do. Like
Yes.
sometimes yoga feels better, and other times I'm like I want to get after it and like really do some strength training, or not so much running anymore, but like maybe boxing or hitting something. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. In some cultures, traditionally, during menstruation, women took like real rest time, like they just really didn't even come out of the house or just really were taking care of themselves. So having that awareness that the body changes, and men as well. Like there's times when I want to work out hard, and there's times when I want to just do some yoga or some gentle stretches or just not work out. And honoring that, listening to yourself is super key. So, there are many things in terms of creating balance through outer work. Outer work is about balance. We're trying to find the sweet spot where it works. It's not too much, it's not too little, but it's just like it's nurturing enough for me to stay balanced. Inner work is a whole other area, which is amazing. And that is where you begin to loosen your attachments and maybe what your what your ego wants and what you're getting caught up in because that's what you believe and that's what you think you have to have. And so as you and the thing here is stress will show you when you're caught on some kind of belief.
Mm.
Stress is your like alarm clock saying, hey, you need to check something out and see if there's something you're super attached to here, or just believing that isn't even necessarily true, and then question the thought that is running at that time. And what happens is you can loosen that attachment. You may find that you're just much easier feeling as a result of that. And so one of the ways that I love to do inner work, this is kind of my background in training, is something called the work of Byron Katie, which is a simple 4 questions you can ask yourself anytime you get stressed, and just be like, okay, is that really true that, he doesn't like me or whatever? And then, and then just like, what are you like going through these questions? Like, how do you react when you're believing that? And who would you be if you weren't believing that? And giving yourself some space there, and then playing with opposites and seeing like, okay, well, it could be that I'm not liking myself here, or I'm not liking him, or maybe he is liking me, and finding examples of how that could be true. So this like loosens the stress. And the way I like to do that is, I always say there's like a wise part of me and there's a stuck part of me.
Mm,
And the wise part of me doesn't need that kind of work. It already read all the books, it knows all the, the perspective. But the stuck part of me, it's more emotional, and that part needs to be held, needs to be met with understanding, and it needs to be given questions like this for it to loosen its own stress. In other words, we're not pushing from above onto our emotions like, you need to change, smarten up, nothing like that. It's more like, where are you at and what's going on? I want to hear, first of all. And then second of all, I want you to play around and see if there's anything more that you might see, that maybe we're missing. So it's very respectful of
mhm.
the inner part of us.
And do you like when you're chatting with like the emotional part of it? Because like what came up for me is like, I don't know, is it called parts work or I don't know. I'm not entirely, it might parts or internal where you're like, I'm like, okay, is this some is this like, 13-year-old me? Is this like triggering that, or is it like just something that's alive and present in the moment?
Yeah.
That sort of thing, or
It's like, it almost doesn't matter, but you will notice that, oh, that does seem very familiar. That is kind of like 13-year-old me, or that is, but you don't have to name it. It's just,
mm,
there's a part of me that is angry, or there's a part of me that is sad, or there's a part of me that is just wanting something, and it's just like desperate. Like, so I want to have that part come out of me and have a safe space to feel like, in an uncensored way, it can share what it actually thinks.
mm,
Because we're usually trying to push that stuff down. We're trying to say, "Oh no, you don't really feel that way. You don't really care. I'm cool and collected and all this." But inside, there's a part saying, I want it. I need it. So I want that part to come out, and I give the mic to that part so that it can actually have a chance, first of all, just to be heard. And then second of all, we're like, okay, I hear you. Now, how's that working for you? Like, is there any other perspective that might open if you explore? So
mhm.
that's it.
So it's like a sounds to me like a little bit of like an acceptance, and then maybe shifting to something that's more supportive potentially.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I say respectful, because we kind of know intellectually where we probably should go, or where the balance point might be, and so we may start with a motive to try to like shift ourselves or change ourselves, but that's not really the process. The process is, I want to see where you're at, and if that's stuck, I want to really be with your stuckness, and I really want to allow space for that. And then if and when you're ready, let's step into questioning it. And then if you find something, wonderful. And if you don't, I also respect that. So there's no push in it at all. And
Mhm,
that gives a really safe space for emotion, and emotional work. And what I find is like, the cooperation of my inner part is like really high. And then it ends up discovering amazing discoveries that actually end up lining up with the book learning and everything anyway. But
mhm,
it discovered it on its own, and that changes the experience,
mm,
and that changes the actual life. And so after doing any kind of work like this, I notice huge shifts in me and my clients where that's just not an issue anymore. And I can't go back to making it an issue because
Mm.
this part saw it instead of, oh yeah, you should
Oh, I hate
kind of
that word.
approach.
I was about to say should is like I wanted it to be the biggest cuss word.
It is. Yeah. And we do it to ourselves the worst,
Yes. Like I try to reframe some of the language with should sometimes. It's like, really?
I mean,
Yeah.
literally, you can take a I should statement, like I
Mhm.
should, whatever, work out more, or whatever you think you want to, and like question it with this kind of process and
Yeah.
find and turn it around to I shouldn't and find the balance there.
Mhm.
And always with this, it's about balance. So it's not that I necessarily should, and it's not that I necessarily shouldn't, but that somewhere in the middle, there's a bigger truth where like I should when I do, and I shouldn't when I don't, and it's a looser hold.
And where is it coming from? For me, it's like, is it something that I'm feeling that I'm placing on myself, like the pressure, or externally coming? Feel like if I gotta feel like I gotta, keep up with something in the world or earn something or, or who knows?
Exactly. We inherit a lot of our beliefs just
Yeah.
from everybody else, our parents, our family, our world. And if we're questioning some of those beliefs when they become stressful, we start to find freedom. And that's what I'm all about, inner freedom, like
Mm.
where you can have craziness around you, or you can have limiting beliefs all around you, but you're just not buying into it as much.
Then it's kind of like you're in on a cool little joke or secret.
Yes.
Yeah, for me anyway. Do you have any like specific examples of like emotions or things, either you or with a client that you walk through, or um, like just to kind of like pinpoint it a little further, or
Yeah, it's a great question.
or
I
we
have
could even
to.
do one like in live, in action right now. If
Sure. Yeah. You want to do a little? Let's do it.
sure,
Why
yeah.
not? Absolutely. So this works really well with specific situations. So I always like to, without trying to kind of fix myself or figure out what I need to work on, just like trust where you got triggered. Like it might be a little tiny thing that just happened this morning or yesterday or last week, or it can be bigger stuff. We can go into trauma work and all that too. But like basically, if you got triggered by something, whether it's anger, sadness, fear, whatever, then that's a moment we can use to kind of look at what you were believing there and then see if there's another perspective on it.
Yeah, maybe when there's mismatched communication styles.
Huh? Okay.
Or, and because then I feel like I look for patterns too or something, or I long for a certain text from someone. And then if I don't get it, so then maybe it ruffles my feathers or something a little more. I feel like so I don't know if that's a good enough one, or I mean, like sometimes my dog is a little shithead and he'll do something that
Yep.
irritates me.
Yeah.
Even though he's my cute little shithead and I love him. Um,
Right. But it got me, like, and that's what I trust. Like, there's that little sensor inside of me that's like, boom, something got me. So there
mhm.
must be something going on.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
So I would suggest like look for a specific time. It's either when your dog got you or some mixed matched communication.
Also, like, which one do I want it to be public?
Yeah, exactly. Knowing that we're on a podcast here, right?
um, I'm like, do I go general or like I'm like, how do I? Okay, but I did like express. I was proud of myself for expressing this, but there was something that it's like where it was a last minute plan shift or change,
Hmm.
and I just would have liked a conversation beforehand or before making the decision, because I was like had this vision of like a date that was going to unfold, um, and it was just a little more intimate, and or just like the two of us basically, and what unfolded was beautiful, but it was just like that I was like, well, damn, I kind of wish like you would have told me beforehand before it was like this is going to be the thing.
Yes.
Without too
Yeah.
much context, because I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if he's going to listen, and I don't know if he wants me to air that out there or not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, we can do it generally enough. We don't have to disclose
Okay, cool.
exactly who it is
Yeah.
and all the details, but it's a relatable kind of
Yeah.
situation. So what were the stressful thoughts running in your mind, in that moment?
I guess a question that comes up, does he not want to spend time with only me, or the prioritization of, or like that intimacy or connection? Because I guess to now death, I'm like, I like to go deep. And so the story was like, I don't think that we're going to have that ability or capability or opportunity with other people there. And
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect. Yeah. So that's a great one that we can look at. Usually, like you framed it as a question, maybe does he not want to spend time with only me? But I
Mhm.
would just reframe it as a statement. It's like he doesn't want to spend
Okay.
time with only me. Like that's the fear or the stressful thought
Hmm.
underneath that question.
Or like, am I not good enough to just hang out by myself?
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. So these are we can brainstorm like in the beginning of just like, okay, what is the thing that feels closest to the stress itself? Is it that he doesn't want to spend time with me, or that I'm not good enough, or uh, for him to spend time with me, or is it the same thing?
Also,
Or
like, how I want someone to like make that plan, and like the masculine make the plan, and
yes,
let's go on this fun date and like have that connection too. So I'm like, I feel like it's a little bit of a whirlwind of things. Maybe that I wasn't considered before
yeah,
making the decision.
yeah, okay, perfect. So you can see there's often a lot of
Yeah.
thoughts that are connected to the stressful experience, and part of the it's really like a meditation. Really, what it is sitting with what are those thoughts and giving yourself time to come out with whatever they are. But I love this one. He didn't consider. Yeah, and I didn't get it all down. I'm writing it down. So he
You're
didn't
good. I've
consider.
been making little notes on the side too, in case my little eyeballs don't, because I'm like, oh, okay, if something falls, yeah.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
think it was something like he didn't consider my point of view. Was that more or
Yeah,
less
or
what it?
consider like, yeah, before making the decision, like,
Yeah, he didn't
call me up
consider
before it was done.
exactly. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's go through. Now, this is where I'm saying, like, let's look at this part of you that is stuck on this, right? We said you got triggered. It was like a small trigger, but still, it's like you feel the emotion. Ah, he didn't consider me before making the decision. And so stay with that part there. Yeah, you feel it? It's real. Okay, so this is the part that I'm inviting to do this work. And so I'm going to ask you some questions and then
Mhm,
um, just listen to where what your actual experience is and report from there.
mhm.
The first question is a yes or no question, so it might take a second to figure out what the answer is for you. So, is it true that he didn't consider you before making the decision?
I don't know that 100%.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah,
Yeah.
right? We just go with it. It's true. I'm sure it's true, and I'm suffering over here because of it.
No, I'm like, I can picture him pondering over there
Right?
and
Right.
trying to make the best path forward. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so just that one question already starts to open it a little bit, just that possibility. If you'd answered no, which is also fine, or sorry, if you'd answered yes, which is also fine, then there's another question: can you absolutely know it's true? Which you already kind of answered all in one. So the next question is, how do you react? What happens when this part of you or you believe or feel that he didn't consider you before making the decision? What happens?
What happened in the moment, or what or after?
Start with the moment and then after,
Well, yeah,
both.
in the
Mhm.
moment, I was a little bummed. I was like, but I still was like, okay, I'm gonna still come. I'm still gonna,
Yep.
yeah, go. I still want to hang out with you. And but then once I got there, which I don't know if I would have done this like old Kristen or past Kristen, different versions of Kristen, but I expressed to him like that my desires, like when the plan shifted, like I was really looking forward to like us getting to that extended time together, and like I'm totally cool with this. However, I had a vision or like, and he had an opportunity to explain, and I was like, oh, okay. So I did get to see where,
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's cool. Like that shows your maturity that like there's a willingness and ability to actually communicate it directly with them, which is awesome. So we're just like tidying up any little
Mhm,
bits of the emotional part there that
mhm.
like any other reactions that showed up out of, oh, he didn't consider me.
Well, whenever just like sitting here, I was like, oh, of course that reminds me of my fucking dad.
Hmm. Yes.
I was like, I
Yep.
was like,
You
why do
think
I
we're
feel
just
like that little girl that they just told me about their divorce again?
uh-huh. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So see how it starts with just a small little thing, like someone didn't keep the plan, and but on an emotional level, deeper in, there's some reaction happening that's connecting it to that experience of your parents getting divorced, your dad, that kind of thing. So it brings a lot of gravity to that same experience on an emotional level. So reactions can include things like past images or future images. They can be like how you treat the other person or how you treat yourself. So any of those things show up for you when you think he didn't consider you?
I maybe started pulling just maybe a little. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll be a little more. We're gonna put my hands up a little distant, or maybe not,
That's it.
we're gonna proceed a little more cautiously,
That's right. That's right.
like that kind
That's
of thing.
that's instant reaction. Like we can't even I say reaction because we can't even control it. It's like when you hit that part of your knee and just pops out, it kicks. So like when you're thinking he didn't consider me before making the decision, instantly there's this little like separating, like emotional distancing that happens. So this is reaction. And they can go on and on. Like every situation is different, and sometimes there'll be like passive aggressive things that'll happen. Sometimes it'll be, you know, ranting and raving. Sometimes it'll just be like, oh, I should ask, where do you feel it in your body or in your emotions?
Oh, like down?
Yeah, I can ask
Okay,
you right
yeah,
now. Yeah,
okay, yeah, okay.
sorry, confusing.
Um, I mean, I was just feeling like whenever I thought about my dad and stuff, I was just like, oh. And like the still in a way.
Yes, yeah.
Um, I don't know if it's as present for me as it was because we kind of like sifted through some of it, but I mean, I just initially want to say heart, or just like up here on my whatever this is, shoulder neck area. Yeah,
So it can show up in different places
yeah.
as well. So all of these are reactions. This is what I mean by how do you react when
Mhm.
you believe that thought. And what this gives the emotional part of me that's suffering here is gives it some feedback and lets it see like, oh, when you're believing that thought, these are all the repercussions. This is what happens. And you can't help it. I'm not blaming you or anything. It's
Mhm.
just this is what comes out. And then the next question is, who would you be in the same situation when this person changes the plan? Um, but if you're not holding on to this idea that he didn't consider you before making the decision, even though it may be true, like, but if you're not as gripped onto that, who would you be?
I'd probably be a little more laid back.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
Uh,
describe what that's like.
less in my head.
So kind of play it through, like as if you're playing pretend. Like, what would it be like to, um, from the moment you hear it to
Okay.
actually meeting him? Like, what
Yeah.
would it feel like? What would it look like?
hmm I'd say, yeah, just more openness too. Because I also think about what transpires. And if I had held on to that like grippingly, I wouldn't have had other beautiful connections happen that day or conversations.
Yeah.
And so that was like, good job.
Yeah.
But there was it's like both kind of transpired.
So the difference that you described so beautifully is with the thought, it's like this distance or kind of closing, whereas without the thought, there's this opening. And that's your internal state. It has nothing to do with the environment or the situation. It's just how you're seeing it. And when this thought comes in, then it closes your mind. It makes you want to retreat and retract. Whereas when you're not thinking that thought or not focused on it, there's this openness and curiosity and interest. So, I grew up I was in high school in the 80s, and they used to have this like ad. It was like, this is your brain, there's like an egg, and then this is your brain on drugs, and it like it's fried. And so like, this is your brain, this is you under the influence of a thought, like, he didn't consider me. And it affects you. It's like a drug. It actually affects you.
Mm.
So this little compare contrast helps the emotional part get it that, oh, okay, when I'm believing that thought, it's kind of sucks and painful and stuck and
Mhm.
stressed. If I'm not, and I'm not saying I should, but if I'm not believing it, then I'm more open and I would be more, engaged in the situation, more
Mhm.
easygoing.
That's beautiful.
So then the last part is, okay, so considering that this thought has such an effect on me, then is it possible that some of the opposites of this thought could be as true or truer than the original? So
Yeah, I
the
need a more
original,
example. Yeah.
yeah, okay, you're already going there, right? So that's
Okay.
what happens when the mind starts opening, is that it starts going there automatically. So I like to do this kind of formally. So he didn't consider me before making the
Mm.
decision is the original statement. There'll be several different opposites. One, what off the top of your head, can you imagine what would one technical opposite be to
You did consider me.
yeah, he did consider me. Okay. So now look for examples of how that could be as true or truer. And maybe you even have some concrete ones because you did talk to him, but
Mhm.
play with it. Like, what's possible that maybe he did consider you before making the decision?
I mean, I know of one. So yeah, or just things like I thought that, your vibe and their vibe was going to really vibe.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was true. I really connected with, particularly one of the women there. And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so that's
Mhm.
what could have been and actually was in this case going through his mind, and why that it's a different way of looking at this,
Mhm.
what actually happened. So we're kind of playing devil's advocate with ourselves, and we're going like, part of me is believing he didn't consider me before making the decision. So is there any more evidence on that other side that he did consider? And we have to just go with possibility. Like, what
Mhm.
could he have been thinking? What like, play that out. What could have happened?
Maybe best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
individual and group.
Yeah.
And then also because I know we made both of those happen, I was like, there was some consideration.
Yeah. Exactly. So we're starting to get closer to his actual mind here instead of the mind that we're imagining or projecting based on past fears and past experiences.
Hmm.
It's like we peel back the veil a little bit and start to actually see the other person better than we were able to before. So that's what this work invites, we can't force it, but it's like you just keep going. Okay, what else could he have been considering? What else could he have been thinking? And it starts opening your mind and freeing your heart. Um,
Hmm. Oh, makes me like him a little more.
yes, right? That's what happens. You start liking everybody more the more you do
Yeah.
this kind of work, including yourself.
Yeah.
So, let's go for another turnaround. So instead of he didn't consider me before making the decision,
Hmm.
this time we'll put yourself on all of it. Instead of he didn't consider me, what is instead of he? What is I? Right. So I didn't consider me
I didn't consider me.
before making the decision. So you have to kind of play with this because it may not make perfect sense. But is there any way that you were maybe not considering you in all of this?
I mean, I could have changed my mind if I really didn't like it. Right.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You were still free. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
have. That's awesome. Right. Like, so I didn't consider me. Like, I get
And
carried.
there's been tons of times in my life where I haven't,
Well, yeah.
or which or like definitely have like the recovery people pleaser thing, right? So
Well, welcome to the club.
yeah, I definitely want to
And
get, yeah.
And as highly sensitive people, when we get imbalanced, we tend to get into the people pleasing side.
Mm, mm,
It's not that that's not our nature, but when we get stressed, we tend to go in that direction because we're good at it, and so we play to our strengths, and it's kind of a coping mechanism in a way.
mhm.
But yeah, I didn't consider me. Like we get so carried away with like making sure the other person's happy or making sure that they're not upset with us or something like that, that we end up forgetting like, does this work for me? Let me just pause for a moment and ask myself, am I still interested even though he just changed the plan without asking me,
Yeah.
right?
Or I could have had the conversation before instead of
Oh my
instead
gosh,
of
yes,
yeah.
exactly. So I
Yeah.
didn't consider me before making the decision. Like the decision here is that he he screwed up or he like that this is not working for me. Like it could be I call him up or just have a conversation and say, hey, I just wanted to check in, this was the original plan, and even if he
Yeah.
doesn't do it, I still can, right?
Yeah.
I can initiate that. Yeah. Okay, so this one, it can show up in a lot of ways, but this is an important one. I don't consider me, and it's something to sit with of how can I consider myself more
Mm,
in this kind of situation or other situations. And I think it's one of the things that I often point to with myself and clients is to listen to myself more, to ask questions of myself directly and listen for the answers that come up from inside instead of just going with what I think, I should, or going with the flow like that. As highly sensitive people, we tend to have really good intuition and we have really good ability to listen. So we just have to point it towards ourselves. Okay, so then one last turnaround, which would
yeah.
be instead of he didn't consider me, we'll switch the roles. Instead of he didn't consider me, I didn't consider him.
Mm,
Um,
mhm.
so how does this make a sense in any way that you maybe didn't consider him in some small way?
Hmm. Maybe not the entirety of his thought process before.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or even like his full desires of the day. Um, yeah.
I love that. I love that. So again, it just opens things a little bit because there's more to consider here than just what I was thinking about. It's like he may have something surprising that would really work for me too, or even if it doesn't, I can find some understanding for where he may be coming from. And it's an opener for conversation. It becomes like a point of connection rather than where the mind originally goes, which is judgment or
Mm,
contraction.
mhm.
So this is, I love that you just did this live
For
and
sure. I'm like the willing guinea pig. And I feel like the going through the motions of it gives it a great example too. And it's like, okay, I want to run those down. It's great.
yeah, I love it. It's very simple, it's very respectful, and it's very connected to our own experience. And so it doesn't feel like intellectual. You can go intellectual on it, but that's not
Hmm.
really the intention of this. It's depth work, it's inner work.
Hmm.
And when you do it, what happens is your perspective changes, and you can use this in many different situations. And it's something I love to do.
Beautiful. And I think it's relatable to so many people that may listen in too. Be like, oh, snap, how many times did I knee jerkingly guess that
Right.
or
Yes.
ask this or that sort of thing too? And I do want to tie in, I'm just checking out the little time there, because of the, what is it, the nature of being, they're linked to people pleasing or that sort of thing. I'd love to kind of like segue a little bit into that too. Maybe
Absolutely.
why there's such a connection, or is it because we're so observant and tuned in? It can, have those little spidey senses to people's feelings, or guesses, that sort of thing, or coming from a desire to be like loved, accepted. I'll just let you kind of like chat a little bit, maybe on the connection between HSPs and people pleasing, and then like how to maybe not.
Exactly. Yeah. there's two sides. There's the HSP trait, and then there's the stress response. I kind of mentioned this
Mm,
already. So the stress is something I want to reduce and work and question my thoughts about and change about myself and all of that. The HSP part, I don't want to change that. That's who I am. That's my
yeah.
nature. So recognizing the difference between what's my actual nature and
Mm,
then what's my imbalance, and then finding the balance there, that's a really important thing. But you'll recognize imbalance by stress. Stress
mm,
is the alarm clock. It tells you, okay, I'm believing something that is hurting me, that is stressful, that is causing me pain. And so you don't have to analyze it deeply. You just have to know, okay, that got me. So something's going on, and then I'll do my inner work. So people pleasing is basically putting uh, other people ahead of myself. It's not that, like, we all like to please people. That's not people pleasing. It's in a weird kind of
mm,
way. Is that
mhm,
we do see what is other people's needs and what would make them happy, and we naturally feel generous and want to be kind to others and include them and do all the nice things that
mm,
that look. Some people might say, "Oh, that looks like people pleasing," but the difference is, where's it coming from inside? If it's coming from a sense of desperation that I need their approval, or worse yet, that I'm afraid of their disapproval, which is what I notice the most with myself, is like, I have to do it perfectly because I don't want them to not like me. And so I get caught in having to do it instead of just naturally
mm,
wanting to do it.
mhm,
So the skill is the same. The HSP skill, or even you don't have to be HSP to be aware of other people, but we are hyper aware of others. That skill is the same, and we tend to care, and we are kind and generous and inclusive and all of those things. But when a stressful thought comes in, like we were just looking here, like I want their approval or I need them to like me or something like that, suddenly now there's a desperation that enters the picture, and I start acting like a people pleaser, where I'm actually doing something not because I want to give, but because I'm trying to get something, or because I'm not, I'm not full, I'm empty, and I'm needing them to fill me, and that's a desperate place to enter any kind of relationship. So
mhm,
whenever you notice that, you'll feel it, check out what you're thinking, and then go through a process like we just did right there.
mhm. Mm, yeah, I love like the intentionality and or just asking yourself, where's it coming from? Like a friend of mine, have friend and mentor actually had this question in one of our like little mastermind sessions, and or she's like, what are you moving from love or for it? And to me, that's a clear distinction of like kind of like that, like kind of graspy or like trying to get something versus like overflow or wanting to pour into someone.
Exactly. Yes. Um, my mentor used to say, like, love, like love, and I may not remember the exact words now, but love is not the same as wanting something, or
Mhm,
wanting someone. Like, I want, like, if there's a neediness in that, as opposed to just I love, it's just an experience. It's just like
mhm,
it's an overflowing cup. And yes, I get things in return, and it is mutual, but that's just a stronger place to be coming from.
mhm. And then anything else that you want to add to like the people pleasing dynamic or HSPs or being nice or boundaries or any of the things that come into play there? I know I have until a little bit of after one my time. I think that's 11:15 your time.
Yeah, I've got plenty of time. Yeah. So, basically, um, this affects intimacy, it affects
Mm,
connection. And a lot of the reasons why people have trouble, in their relationship or with a partner, is because of little miscommunications or little beliefs that are interfering with how you're seeing the other person. And so if you make a habit of cleaning these little thoughts up and really giving yourself space to explore honestly, then what happens is you stop seeing your partner as an enemy. You start seeing them as the friend that they are. And then you actually have closer connection and more fulfilling experience together. And so it benefits all levels of life.
I love that. I'm just like thinking, get a little visualization going on, and I'm like, I'll keep that one to myself. I'm
I love
like,
it.
yes, yeah, because it to me when something you spoke of earlier, it's like the contraction and the closing versus like the openness and the connecting gateway to intimacy, and the the willingness to be curious and compassionate with oneself and like their partner.
That's it. Yeah. You can't be open and closed at the same time. It's kind of a
Oh, yeah.
it's really hard, you know? So I mean, I've witnessed it with clients where they're like I'm just unable. I'm not even attracted to my wife anymore, you know. And it's like, well, what's going on? What do you? And then, oh my gosh, this is what I'm thinking and believing. Of course, like the the, the beauty of the other person gets completely eclipsed by the thoughts that you're believing about them.
Hmm. Like any other like frames or tips or I guess actually I could ask you my question that I forgot to ask in the beginning that I'm trying to remember to ask. It's like asking you kind of like what's, turning you on the most in life or making you feel the most alive in and out of the bedroom. Just kind of like it's open and a broad question. It can be.
Yeah, it's a great question. I was thinking about it. I was like, just this conversation is turning me on in a really sweet way of like just the what I love doing is bridging the inner world and the outer world.
Mm,
For me, that is so satisfying. And I when I was younger, I was more inward and more just like doing my own thing, doing my own inner. Uh, I've always been into meditation and all that kind of stuff. But as I've grown, like I feel like my calling is to be connecting the outer and inner worlds. It's kind of like my mom and my dad a little bit. My mom was really outward, my dad was really inward, and somehow those two are something I like to bridge. And so that really excites me, and is something that makes me feel alive. Really does.
mhm. That's beautiful. Any other favorite ways that you like to be that bridge? I know you mentioned meditation. Um,
Yeah, like for me, it used to be like meditation was the only way, and it is really. I still meditate like regularly every day, and I love it as a practice. I think it's more inner work again.
mm,
But what surprised me is that getting into the nitty gritty of life is as important as that kind of transcending experience as well.
mm, mhm,
Analogy that comes to mind is like a tree where you to grow higher, you also have to grow deeper.
mm,
So the roots
mhm,
have to get down into the dirt and like get into the real nitty gritty of life, and that supports the going higher and expanding to higher values of life. So, like me, just running a business, being like all this stuff that I thought was materialistic, is like no, bring it on because that's where that inner world is starting to bridge out into the outer world, and it's very fulfilling when it starts to happen. What it feels like is alignment from
mm,
deep inside to outside as well.
mm. I'm curious. Well, I'm curious about a couple of things, but I'm like any specific type of meditation. But then I just it's more of a comment, I guess. It's like, yeah, I think I used to try to want to transcend maybe out of the human experience because it's like
Yes.
maybe because there's a lot going on here, or there's like the HSP stuff or whatever. But I feel like lately, within the last like year or so just like this embracing of my humanness and mess. has
Yes,
been so nice and juicy that it makes life feel more spiritual, and or like noticing of like
absolutely.
synchronicities or connections or and that sort of thing too. I was like, oh, I guess I came here to be a messy human.
Yes, that's oh my gosh, we're on the same path. It's so counterintuitive because I'm the same, and I think it's an HSP thing to kind of
Mm.
wanna just let's just witness this whole life instead of actually be in it. But, like, to actually get our feet involved and get our feet on the
Mm,
ground and get messy, be like a mess and let that be okay, like, that is healing
mm,
for I think for everyone, but especially for HSPs. So, yeah, I that is where that is what is exciting me 100%. As far as meditations, there are many kinds of meditations, and there's so many effective ones. There are different kinds, like some are just relaxation or just getting
mm,
yourself in your body a little bit, and those are helpful when you're not able to get in your body or, just things like that. But then there's different kinds of meditation. Even yoga can be a meditation, and then I do transcendental meditation, which is a mantra meditation, and it's super easy to do and very delicious is the way I like to describe it. It feels really good, But there's Buddhist meditation. There's just so many forms, and that's something that I encourage everyone to spend time researching. Like, what's the meditation that fits for me? That
mhm,
really, and then try some and find ones that work for you because it's something that can provide a solid basis for your life. HSPs need more alone time than other people. They need time to like decompress. They need time to be just quiet, not doing anything productive. And meditation scheduled into your day can provide that in a great way. I do it first thing in the morning and I do it at the end of my workday, and it's just like this beautiful start to my day and a beautiful kind of like reset before the evening.
I just had a question come up too. Is it, the time you mentioned, like, being or needing the time to yourself, and I'm like totally resonate with that. I had a partner one time. He's like, I get it. And I see or feel it as maybe being you're choosing to spend time not with me. So I'm like, any tips or anything for the partners of highly sensitive people, maybe.
Yeah, it's a tough one at first until you understand this trait a little bit, that this is just an actual need. This is not about the other person not wanting to spend time with the other person. It's that as HSPs, we just need time alone. And it has to be on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And we can judge ourselves for being selfish in that way, but that's not what really is going on. There's a limit. We reach our limit earlier, and we want to prevent it from getting into a state of overwhelm where it becomes chronic overwhelm. And then now you're going to drive your partner crazy because now you're just like zero fuse, and everything's going to set you off, and they're going to be like, what's wrong with you? And so if you frame it in terms of this is for you,
Yeah.
honey, this is for you. It's like, I want you to have the best relationship with me. And what I need for that to work is I need some alone time, some space for myself. I need to have a room where I can just go
Mhm.
and chill, and I need to just listen to my music or just like read or like do whatever it is, just like relax. For me, before bed is a really important time for me. Like, I actually do a wind down before jumping into bed, and I don't go on my computer or anything. We like we watch a little Netflix, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go do my wind down. And I like lay on the floor, like have this block where I put my leg up, and I do these different things, and I'm listening to a podcast or just music or just chilling, and then I do a little massage on my like body, just like my legs, my hands, my arms, my face, my head, just before I go to bed. And that's my time. And if I don't do that, I'm probably going to be wired while I'm sleeping. Well, I'm not sleeping. I'm going to be in grouch the next morning. And like, you don't want to live with that. So, so anytime you can frame it in terms of the benefit the other person's going to get, That helps a lot. Same with work. Like HSPs at work also need to take breaks here and there, also need a little quieter space for themselves. And sometimes it's not possible, but if you get into conversation with managers, then this is about you can increase your productivity or you can be a more effective part of the team. And so that frames it in a way that often makes sense to people.
Yeah. Is there, and you said how many, I don't know, at the beginning you said a certain percentage, but I can't remember exactly the percentage of people that are.
Yeah, it's 15 to 20% of the population has this HSP trait.
How do we become less invisible? No.
Yes, it's becoming less and less invisible all the time. And what's interesting is just because you're HSP does not necessarily mean you're introvert either.
Oh, interesting. Really? Okay,
Surprisingly,
interesting.
30% of people who are HSP are extrovert. So you can have the extrovert personality, but still need time alone and still need still have the depth of processing and the emotional component and all of these things. So it's a very specific little trait.
Interesting. Yeah. I definitely identify or feel that I'm more introverted because I've always likened that to a need for time to be by myself. But when I tell people, they're like, what?
Yeah, I know, right? So extroverts,
On and off. Yeah, actually.
yeah, extroverts get energy by being around people. They feel like something relaxes and they're like more at
Mm,
home. Introverts get the energy from being alone and taking care of themselves that way. Obviously, most HSPs are introverts, but
mhm.
there are exceptions there.
Yeah, some rare birds.
That's right.
Yeah. Um, any last like gifts or myths that you'd like to share? Uh,
It's a great question. It even has poetry built into it. I'm like, I
I
gotta
love some
go.
words.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Gifts or myths?
Mhm.
Yeah, that is a good question. I'm like drawing a blank, to be honest.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more like how can I stay connected to myself?
Mhm.
That as human beings, whether you're highly sensitive or not, how do you stay connected with yourself? That is how you have the most to give. That is how your relationships can be more fulfilling. That is how you can be more happy and balanced. Like it's the missing element that we all just forget because the world points us outwards. It keeps us pointed to what's the next thing we should do, who should we be like, what should we accomplish, and uh, and that's fine.
Yeah. Or if we get like if we buy this, then we'll feel this way or be this.
Exactly, right? It's all outward, and we've learned or we've kind of gotten trained over our lives to think that happiness is out there, everything that we want is out there. So just keep looking out there, out there, out there. Out there is an important part. This is that we were saying the balance of we have to get messy and get out there also, but inward is the place that we tend to forget. And so just put more of that in your life, like just a little more inward. Ask yourself what you think,
Mm,
give yourself time, give yourself space, and take care of yourself.
curiosity. To me, it's like, are you maybe, is there a need to be curious around the resistance to not wanting to sit with yourself?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know? If we,
exactly.
yeah, if we get
And
really,
that can be a starting point. Like if you can't actually sit with yourself because it's uncomfortable, then
mhm,
like start with like what am I afraid will happen or what am I
mm,
uncomfortable about sitting with myself? Do that little process that I was telling you about, the work of Byron Katie, and just
mhm.
like I don't want to sit with myself because I'm gonna, it can just be I don't want to. I don't,
Yeah.
like, and is it
Or
true?
afraid of what will be illuminated. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm gonna find out there's just nothing in there. I'm gonna find out that it's like more complicated. I don't want to look at that stuff. It's gonna be painful. These are all thoughts that can be questioned. And then when you feel safe, then you can just keep inching your way there. This is digging your roots in a little deeper and deeper into your your base. And then the more you do that, the taller your tree can rise.
That visual too of the tree. Anything else you want to drop in? I have your website here, and I'll definitely put that in the show notes. Trueinnerfreedom.com, right?
TrueInnerFreedom.com. I'm all about inner freedom, which is amazing because it means the world around you doesn't have to change.
Mhm.
And that's where the freedom comes in. So as you work with your inner world, you're you're less dependent on the outer world. Of course, you still have to interact and you can still take action, but this gives an option for that. So yeah, go to trueinnerfreedom.com. I have the HSP stress test there on my website, and so you can find out two things from that test: whether you have the HSP trait or not, or how to what degree. It's kind of a scale, and then where you fall on different stress levels, like what's your depression like, what's your anxiety like, what's your stress like. And it's another important data point because remember, we can work with stress, we just have to accept the HSP trait if that happens to be our nature. So knowing where you are, where you're out of balance, can be the starting point for starting to get into balance. And I have a 6-month program for stress management for highly sensitive people, and we go into all of these things in detail and with a lot of community support and support from me as well. So there's lots there. And then you can check out my podcast. I have a podcast called Stress Management for Highly Sensitive People. And you just type in HSP, and you'll find a whole bunch of episodes about these kinds of subjects.
Cool. And then you prompted another question. So I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
are HSPs more likely to be anxious or depressed?
We it's a great question. So there is a kind of connection between stress and HSP, but it's
Mhm.
not exactly what you would think. You might think HSPs are more stressed than other people because they're so sensitive. That's only true if HSPs allow themselves to get out of balance. And if they do, they get that overwhelm, they get all the stress markers and everything happens, then that's the sign they have to come back to balance. If you stay in balance, the advantage of being an HSP is that you can actually, you have a chance for even greater resiliency than other people because you're able to notice stress earlier than other people. And so, you know how an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? So,
Mhm.
you notice when, the ship is deviating 1 degree right now, so you just pull it
Mhm.
back to where it's supposed to be, and then you don't have problems down the road. Whereas people that don't have this trait, they have a bigger buffer, so things don't bother them as much. They can put up with a lot more stuff, but at some point it may come crashing down because they weren't paying attention and the ship's on the rocks or something like that. So
Interesting.
yeah, we have an advantage and a disadvantage. We have to
Yeah.
do our work. We can't get away with it, which sucks sometimes, but actually is really a good thing because it keeps us, really optimally functioning when we do our work.
Love this conversation with you. And so I just appreciate you coming on here and sharing some insight and wisdom and just who you are.
You're so welcome, Kristen. It was awesome talking with you. I love your openness and your great questions and your willingness to do the work. Amazing.
Thank you.